Hey everybody, it's Gabriel Abrams. Welcome to the first episode of the podcast with no name and no real plan or anything. This is literally the first episode. And the reason I'm starting this first episode like this is because I just need to get started on this podcast. And as I do it, I'll figure it out. But who am I? What can you expect from me? And we'll talk about some three key lessons I've learned along the way in this episode. So my name is Gabriel Abrams. If you don't know anything about me, which is very likely, I was a former ER trauma nurse. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I am now the founder and CEO of Elite Mobile IV. It's a premium health and wellness mobile IV therapy service. We send nurses to your home. They help you feel better. But ultimately, I am a freedom maximalist. I'm doing everything I can to improve my freedom capabilities, whether it's financial, health, geography. I'm just looking to create the most free life that I can for myself. And that's really probably the biggest takeaway that you'll get from me is how do I make a lot of money? And then what do I do once I get the money? And how do I use it to enhance my lifestyle and make it more free? If you're going to learn anything from me, that's probably what it's going to be. I'll probably also talk a lot about different spiritual things, esoteric knowledge, wisdom, cryptocurrencies. Bro, we're going to talk about a lot of different things on this channel. But in this video, we're going to talk about a little bit of my journey, not all of it. We're going to save some of the journey maybe for a different platform or different later on. But before we get into it, the best way to listen to this is I'd recommend just listening to it in your car or in the background. Don't necessarily need to watch what I'm doing. There's not going to be a lot of hand movements going on. If you're wondering where I'm at right now, I am outside. It is currently raining. It's also very cold, so I have the jacket on. Due to the nature of my business, I'm always moving left and right, different city here, different city there, different country. So I'm never really in one place. It's kind of been like vagabond mode for the last 2 years. And for the foreseeable future until I decide to either settle down or if I meet a girl or whatever. But for right now, we're just moving where the money is and where I need to go or wherever I feel like it, really. And the rain's picking up a little bit, so sorry if it's kind of loud. But let's continue. So, so we'll just start with the ER. I was an ER trauma nurse, and then I left to, I did that for about a year. Nursing, by the way, is a very great profession. If you don't know what you're going to do in life and you have any kind of inclination towards health and wellness, highly recommend nursing, more specifically, nurse practitioner. If you go into the medical field, you will never be broke again, ever. Because the bottom line for everybody in this world is their health, right? Money's no good, relationships are no good. Nothing is good without your health. And unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of people don't have great health, especially in the United States. And, it's even becoming more widespread, even in Europe now. And a lot of Asian countries are succumbing to it. But especially where I live currently in the United States, probably half the population now is obese. A third of the people have diabetes. They say 25%. It's probably a lot more or on the autism spectrum. A lot of people have depression. Half the population has anxiety. None of this stuff is normal, guys. First of all, they're trying to normalize it and tell you that, yeah, it's a normal part of aging. It's a normal part of the school experience. It's just a normal part of life that you get these chronic illnesses, and these illnesses, they have no cures and they don't go away. No, guys, those are all lies. You're not supposed to live a life where your health is just absolute garbage for most of it. Chronic illnesses were never a thing back in the day. Everything has a root cause and they're hiding it from you, and that's why you never truly are able to take care of yourselves because you never learn. A lot of people never learn how to take care of their health, and the end result is chronic illness through your entire life, a very low quality of life. Their goal is not to kill you, because if they kill you, they can't get any money from you, but they want you to be sick enough to where you constantly are on prescription meds, which don't treat the actual cause of the disease, but rather mitigate symptoms and then cause new symptoms that they can treat with more prescription meds. I know the game, guys. I know how they do it because I work in the industry, not particularly that evil industry. I do something a little bit more in line with my values, but the bottom line is if you go into the medical field, you will never be broke again. And here's the thing, even if you don't do it for financial purposes, all of the medical knowledge that I learn, most of it's from myself. I don't actually sell or teach or share a lot of these secrets because you can get in a lot of trouble for sharing these ideas and actually helping people improve their health. I do have a health clinic, by the way. Like, I do have my mobile IV clinic, and I do a lot of the things that I agree with and that I do for myself that help improve health. But there's so much more than just mobile IV therapy. Like, there's so much more than just getting vitamins and things like that. Like, you need to learn how to take care of yourself, and we'll probably talk about that in later episodes. But to kind of summarize this point, like, if you never want to be broke again, go into nursing, become a doctor, go to NP school. We could even talk about the difference between NP school and MD school real quick too, because that's very it's a good point. Why didn't I become a doctor? So, like, when I was in nursing school, I thought I was going to become a DO or an MD or some kind of doctor, right? Because once you become a doctor, your salary is going to be high. You're going to be making a lot of money. You can make health decisions. It's really hard to screw up your career as a doctor. Let's put it that way. All right, as long as you play by the rules, I guess. But when I was in nursing school, what I learned is that, one, nursing school doesn't want me here. Like, they were actively trying to get rid of me because of my values. And two, I didn't really like school. And there's a difference between liking school and liking learning. And unfortunately, what happens to a lot of kids is they're in school and they're associating that negative experience with, I hate learning. And the second you decide you're going to stop learning, you're going to stop earning. In fact, your life's going to suck. One of the most valuable things you can do in this world is learn as much as you can. And it's unfortunate that they go through school and they're like, I hate learning. No, you don't hate learning, you hate school. And I was one of those people who hated school. But I was good at the game. And I was a very successful student because when I was taking the test, I'm not choosing the answer I think is correct. I'm choosing the answer they think is correct. I would do anything it took to do extremely well in those tests because my goal in school wasn't to learn. My goal in school was to get the degree, and that's what I did. I got my degree in nursing so that I become a nurse, and all throughout school, all throughout my nursing school, my only thought was, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of nursing school? Like, how do I make sure that I never have to do this for a job, for a living, for the rest of my life? That's all I was thinking about. And it was funny to compare because all the other nursing students were like, oh, I got to study for my tests. I got to read the textbooks. I can't wait to go work in a med-surg unit for 50 years until the skin falls off my body. Like, that was totally not my mindset going into it. So during nursing school, believe it or not, I had a business and I was doing cryptocurrencies. Like, I was out there doing some wild stuff to make some money. But I was in cryptocurrencies. When NFTs became a thing, you bet your ass I was in the game. Doing things to try to earn quick money. And there's a lot of lessons on learning quick money and slow money because I've done both. I've made quick money and I've lost a lot of money. And I've made slow money and I've grown money. And there's a huge difference between making a lot of money really quickly and growing it slowly. And I would say that when you earn your money slowly over time, not only is it going to stick with you, but you're going to make a lot more. Very rarely are you going to make quick money and actually be able to, one, keep all of it, and two, actually enjoy any of it, because quick money will tear you down fast. You're going to miss out on a lot of key life moments by trying to make a bag quick. You really need to take the slow and reliable route and just try to actually create something of value. And even realize that money isn't the goal. Because when you focus on making X amount of money, you're never going to make the money. It's like chasing your own shadow. It's just going to keep getting further and further away from you. You have to attract all of it, right? You have to walk your own direction, and therefore your shadow is going to follow you now. And you're going to do that by building systems and creating a real business and empowering people to become successful in your organization. That's a story for another day. But in nursing school, I was trying to figure out how to make some money so that I didn't have to do nursing. And I would say I went through some of the hardest times, and it wasn't because of nursing. It was actually because of running my first business where I was trying to make quick money, where I did make a lot of quick money, and then I ended up losing pretty much all of it by the end of nursing school and had to take a nursing job in the ER, emergency room. It was the only job I could get. I don't want to get too specific into the details, but I was basically not allowed to work at a hospital. Like, no one wanted to hire me. And it wasn't because I was a bad student. It wasn't because I was a bad nurse. It was just because of who I was. And thank God I ended up getting a job in the emergency room, because at that point I kind of needed a job because I had nothing. I lost my business, didn't know what I was doing. So I took a job in the emergency room as a trauma nurse. And it's funny because I've never set foot in an ER in my life. In fact, when I graduated nursing school, I was so focused on getting good grades and such that I didn't even really know how to be a nurse. Like, I didn't know how to do IVs, barely knew how to pass out the meds. I didn't even know what the meds were. Like, I didn't know how a hospital worked. And luckily in the ER, they taught me all of that. Like, that's when I really learned how to be a nurse. Like, there was, they just kind of threw, it was really trial by fire, where you had to learn or you weren't going to make it, you know. They put me on the, you know, in the ER. They assigned me to a trauma nurse who would be my preceptor, and me and him would just, you know, run it through. And, you know, within weeks, I kind of got the hang of things. And it wasn't because it was easy to, it was because I didn't have a choice. I really had to get the hang of it, because not only was my career on the line, but it was like actual lives on the line, right? I remember the first time they took a patient, had to get a patient off the helicopter who was basically dismembered. Like, someone just cut her up, and, you know, it was an interesting experience, but it was good. It was good that I ended up having to go through all that to learn. So here I am, going through the ER, doing nursing stuff, you know, doing the best I can, but I'm not making a lot of money, but it was comfortable. You know, I wasn't really struggling. I had enough money for trips, you know, whatever I wanted to do, pay all my bills, but what was really killing me is I didn't have any time, ever. I always felt like I was in the ER. They never gave me time off. I remember I was trying to take the whole month of December off. And I remember just walking down the hallway, and one of the assistant managers said, "Hey, Gabe, we got to talk." And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, "You can't just take the whole December off." And I was like, "Why not? I got PTO." And she's like, "Well, here's what you can do. You can take a week off here and then work 3 days and then take another week off." I'm like, all right, well, we'll see about that. But like I could never get time off. It was crazy. And, you know, I would ask for time off like 4 months in advance. And it was like a maybe. We'll see. We need you here. But part of that also made me feel good. So I was like, man, I'm contributing to an organization that actually needs me here. Like, talk about job security. You know, a lot of people struggle to get jobs. I couldn't freaking leave one. You know, it's hard. But it was, you know, it was a good experience for me. I learned a lot, very appreciative of it. I'd do it again, 100%. In fact, I think most people in this world should spend a little bit of time in an ER or a high-stress environment, because you're going to learn some things. And I'm going to save it for another video, but we're going to talk about like the top 3 things that I learned as an ER trauma nurse, because it's not what you expect. I didn't learn emergency medicine. I learned a life philosophy, and I'll share it with all of you. But it really helped me, you know, really forged me to who I am today and helped me become successful in a lot of my future endeavors, because I had to go through that experience and learn some things that would translate into my business world and even my life. So yeah, highly recommend the ER, but I couldn't get time off, and that was a problem for me, because I didn't feel free. I felt trapped. Every single day I would wake up at 5 in the morning, get my stuff, run out, you know, rush out the door, drive an hour to work for 12, 13 hours, come home late, go to sleep, rinse and repeat every day. And it was tough for me too, because I was on day shift, and then I was on night shift, and then I was back on day shift. Like, they put me on night shift because, you know, the ER, at least the one I worked at, you had to do both. You would precept on day shift, and they'd say, all right, now you're going to work night shift, because it's different during the days and the nights, and plus I think they needed people on nights. And the nights were brutal. Oh my gosh, the nights were so bad. Like, and it wasn't that like crazy things happened during the day and at night, but the nights, the fact that you're staying up all night, working, like, it just throws off your whole sleep schedule and everything. You feel sick all the time. You're aging at like 10 times the speed. I mean, I'm looking at all my coworkers on a night shift, and I'm like, no, this ain't gonna be me. I'm not gonna do this. So I remember after doing my time on night shift, I applied to be on day shift, and eventually they put me on day shift, but by then it was too late. I've had enough. I was ready to go. And I remember sitting down at the table with a family friend, and I was telling him about, you know, my situation. He was asking how things were, and I was like, you know, I had my business, you know, it kind of fell apart though, so now I'm working in the ER, and I don't know what the next move is. You know, I'm just working this job till I figure something out. He says, you know, don't worry, Gabe. You're going to be at the table sooner or later. And I thought about that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, be back at the table. I'm like, I don't even know what the next move is. I didn't think much of it at the time, but it turned out he was right. Like, within months of me going on back to day shift, I've already thought of my next business. It was already introduced to me, and I was back at the table playing the game again. And it was interesting. It was very interesting that, if you find yourself in a situation where you don't know what the next move is, trust me, it will come. The next move is just right around the corner. It's going to come to you, and you're going to be back at the table. So if your business failed, if you lost your job, if you don't know what the next move is, you'll be back at the table soon enough. Let me tell you guys that, just like my family friend told me, because it's true. You will be back at the table again, and you're going to be playing whatever game you want to play. And that's what ended up happening. I had an opportunity to start a mobile IV clinic. During the ER, I developed skills, one of which was IV therapy and, emergency medicine, how to take care of people in acute situations. I learned about different bags of fluids, different IVs, how to do the IVs, how to, mix the bag. I learned everything. I really learned everything. And, fortunately, I was in an opportunity where I knew the right people, and I was able to start a mobile IV clinic in my local city. And that's what I did. I started the business, and I tried doing it in coordination with the ER. And I didn't have a lot of clients at the time, so it was nice to have that ER income. But at the same time, I felt like I was spending all my time in the ER. I didn't have any time to put in the business. But at this point, I've been living at home like the whole year. I was living at home. I was stacking cash. I wasn't spending anything. I was saving up a lot of money. So I was in a position where, hey, I don't need this job anymore, and I really need this business, because I know what the end result is if I work here forever. It's either I'm going to get fired because they're going to change different things within the company that'll result in my termination, like it has in the healthcare is just a changing field, or I'm going to work here forever, and I'm going to end up like a lot of the nurses that have been here forever, which nothing wrong with their life. It's just not what I wanted. They're just always working. They don't travel much. They don't do much. They just work in the ER. And I'm not saying it's not a fulfilling life. It certainly is, but it wasn't for me. So I knew I had to make a move. I had money. I knew the right people. I needed to get out. So I started this business, tried doing it in coordination with the ER, and didn't have a lot of clients call me when I first started. I didn't know how to market myself. I barely knew what I was doing. But a few people did naturally find me, and they would call me. And of course, I was at the ER working. And what I realized is, people who need these IV fluids, they don't want it tomorrow. They want it right now. Like, they don't even want it 2 hours from now. They want it like right now. Someone needs to start driving them right now. So I realized if I really wanted to make this mobile IV clinic work, I couldn't work in this ER. And it was impossible to go PRN or part-time. Like, it was just not an option. It was either you're in or you're out in the ER. So I remember talking to my parents about it, walking down to the manager's office, giving her my 2 weeks notice. She looked at it and says, Gabe, you can't give us a 2 weeks notice here. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you got to get 4 weeks. I'm like, 4 weeks? I didn't know we had to do 4 weeks. She's like, is that gonna be a problem? I was like, well, let me think about it. Because at this point, I was kind of fed up. I was ready to go and start on this business career. So I thought about it, and I decided that probably best to leave on good terms. Not worth burning a bridge at the only hospital in the world that actually would hire me. So, all right, I did my 4 weeks. And then it got a little dicey, because at the end, they started changing my schedule and adding on to it. I'm like, what gives? We agreed on 4 weeks. So why are we adding more days? You're having me work past my end day. And they're like, it's like, well, we need you to work. It's like, can you not work those days? And I'm like, I'm done. That's it. I did my 4 weeks. So I remember walking to the manager's office. Before it was the assistant manager, the one who hired me. So I go to the manager's office. Never actually met her in my life, but I knew she was the manager. Walk in there, I'm like, hey, I worked my 4 weeks. I'm resigning now. Hand her my badge, walked out. End of that story. Still got some good friends there. But that closed the chapter in the ER. And now I had really nothing to fall back on but my savings and my skill set. And I decided I'm going all in on this business. I'm either going to make it, or I'm going to sink with the ship or pivot or something else, but I'm going to find a way to make it. And I got to say, that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. But if you are going to make a strategic decision like that, let me give you some words of advice here. Don't do it without some kind of support. I didn't just quit my job and was like, if I don't make money tomorrow, I'm cooked. I had savings. And if you're going to quit your job, if you have a job right now, I recommend saving as much money as you can, whether, if you're young like me, whether that means living with your parents if you can, or having roommates, or living somewhere cheap and, saving a lot of your money. You need to have at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved in cash. And that way you're going to be in a financial position to where you can make this kind of move. I wouldn't recommend quitting your job, following your passion if you don't have anything. You can do it. I'm sure it'll be a great story, but it's probably going to be a much harder story. Maybe not the wisest decision. But if you have a job, stack cash, learn skills, then get out. Unless you work for my company, then grow with me, because part of my business model is you're supposed to grow with me. You're supposed to grow with the company, and we have those opportunities. But if you have a dead-end job, like a hospital job, you're not growing with the hospital, right? So make money, stack cash, get out, or go up the career, whatever you want to do. Guys, it's your life. I'm here to tell you what to do. I can only share what I did, right? So started the business, and God, it was going slow in the beginning. Like, I was like stressing. I remember I was stressing so bad about money, even though money wasn't really the problem. I think the money was lack of income, or the problem was lack of income, even though I had a little bit of money. Just no patients were calling me. I didn't know how to get them in the door. I didn't even know how to sell things. It was so bad. So I started going down a really, self-discovery. I started reading. I started learning marketing. I started watching videos, taking courses. I was doing everything I can to learn the business. I was looking at competitors, and I was learning as much as I could. And I did that, and I was able to kind of slowly pick it up. I was doing a little bit of money. I had high profit margins because I was doing everything in the business. And then it just kind of organically took off over time. It was really slow in the beginning. Like the whole first year of the business, I didn't really make any money. Like, I did the whole business for a whole year, and I didn't make any money. But thank God I didn't lose money, right? A lot of people lose money in their first few years of business, but I was able to do it in a way where I was able to sustain myself. I kept my bottom line very, very low, to where my overhead low, to where if I could just make a little bit of money, I'd be okay. I charged high prices, one, because I was really, I've mastered IV therapy. I was I was the guy. I am the guy. If you need IV fluids at home and I'm in your city or near it, I am your guy. And people knew that, especially the ones that booked with me. Finding me was hard, but once they knew me, I had clients, and I was able to support myself off of it. Low overhead, high prices, and doing a lot of the work myself, not having employees at the time, really helped me make it through that first year. But after that first year, I kind of realized this isn't the life I want. Now I'm working all the time, and it's even worse than the ER, because in the ER, at least I had 3 or 4 days off where I could do jack shit, right? Where nothing mattered, do whatever I want. Well, now that I'm working, in my business, it's every day, bro. Every day, 16 hours every single day. I couldn't take a day off, because if I took a day off, I might miss my lucky day. A lot of my days were people always say, if someone ever tells you get lucky, you don't get lucky. You make your own luck by showing up every day, because one of these days you're going to get lucky. And that happens so many times throughout the year. I'd be looking at the financials and be like, man, I'm cooked. That's it. It's GG, game over, And then I'll be open one day and I'll get a big order, and I'll make all the money I needed to that month, plus a little bit more, to keep going. And I was like, wow, thank God, mashallah. It was crazy. So if you're going to go into business, I recommend going all in. All in. Because if you want to be ball in, you have to be all in. So that's what I did. That's what I still do today. I'm always available. I'm always working on the business. I'm always trying to grow it. But now I'm in a situation where I've grown it so much, where I've created that lifestyle of freedom that we'll talk about later. But every day I showed up for the business. I never took a day off. Even when I was on vacation, I still worked in the business. I'd find somebody to fill in or something. And if I wasn't there physically seeing the clients, I made sure that someone still was, and that I was still coordinating. I was still picking up the phone. I was still coordinating. I was still collecting payments, still marketing, managing. It's a lot of work, guys. It's a lot of work. So that first year was tough. Second year, I realized I need systems. I need this thing to work with or without me, right? I want a business. I don't want a high-paying job. I've enslaved myself to the business. Every day is wake up, high stress, pick up the phone, respond to texts, emails, book clients, market. How do I get more clients in? Look at the financials. It was so much going on. So I was like, I need to start building teams, all right? I don't need to be doing every single person anymore because I'm capped out. If I fill out my schedule for the day, I can't see any more people. My earning is capped out. I'll never be able to grow the business. So I had to start hiring people, and that's what I did. I started hiring nurses, and that has truly been one of the hardest parts of the business is finding the right people, motivating them, retaining them, training them. But it is also one of the best decisions you'll make is to start hiring people. A lot of people get stuck in this owner-operator role where they're doing everything, but on the bright side, they're making a lot of money because they're doing everything, right? But on the downside, they've enslaved themselves to the business, which isn't really the lifestyle most people want. So at that point, I started building systems. I started hiring nurses. So now, instead of seeing people just in this city, we can see people over there because I've hired nurses to do it over there. And instead of me picking up the phone all the time, I hired a dispatcher who's picking up the phone all the time. And then you just keep growing it. You just slowly replace yourself. You're not doing it all at once. At first it's just me in the city seeing people. Let's get one other nurse seeing people in the city. Now there's 2 people seeing city. Now there's 3. Now there's 4. Now there's 5. Okay, now this city we're seeing is, we still have room to grow in the city. We're seeing everyone we can. Let's expand the operation to that city now. Let me hire some nurses over there. Maybe I'll move there for a bit to get it started, and then I'll hire nurses and just rinse and repeat, right? Whatever's bringing in the money for the business, find ways to just keep doing that. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm making all this money doing this. Let me do something else now so I can make even more money. No, if you're making a lot of money do this, the question is, how do I make more money doing this? How do I keep rinse and repeating it? How do I maximize the value there? And that's what I was doing. Okay, 1 profitable city, 2 profitable cities, 3 profitable cities, 4, 5, 6, and you just keep growing and growing, and you're growing your team with it too. Eventually, you'll be able to make so much money that you just keep replacing yourself. Okay, now that I'm not seeing every client in here, who's doing the marketing, right? Okay, let me get my marketing team in place because marketing helps make the money come in. So now you have a marketing team. Now they're doing the website, the ads, they're doing everything for you. All right, we got the marketing team. What are some other low value activities that I'm doing? Oh, I'm still picking up the phone. Why am I picking up the phone? Anyone can pick up the phone. All right, let me get someone else to pick up the phone. Oh, we need someone to coordinate visits and stuff. Like we need someone to manage now. Like what if I want to take a vacation or if I want to disappear for a bit or God forbid something happens to me? Who's running the business, right? Who's coordinating everything? Who's managing? It can't be me because I'm not there, right? So let's get a manager on board. Where's your management team? If you have a business and you don't have a management team, you don't have a business, you have a job. So get your management team in place. And then it's, who's actually growing this business when I'm not here, right? Who's actually incentivized and motivated to grow this thing if I'm not doing it, right? So incentivize your management team, put a growth team in place. There's so many ways to keep growing. You need to build systems. The business needs to operate with or without you. And in doing so, you have a real business, an asset, something that you can even sell one day. And now you have a lot of wealth because the business is your wealth. You don't have a job anymore that's dependent on you. You have wealth because you can be sleeping at night making money. You can be in a foreign country making money. And by doing so, you're also doing a lot of good in the community too because you're empowering people. You're giving people jobs that scale. So a lot of people say, hey, Gabe, I can't afford to hire people. We could talk about misconceptions of hiring people all day. I'll probably save a lot of it for another video, but a lot of people say like, I can't afford to hire people, Gabe. Like, how did you afford to do all of this? Guys, just be creative with your incentive structures. Maybe you don't have to pay them hourly. Maybe you don't even have to do a salary for them. Maybe do a commission spread, right? Bring in enough business, give them a piece of the pie. Put a lot of that effort on them and they're going to succeed if they want to really make it. So, you can do commissions, you can do salary plus commissions, you can do hourly. I really think performance-based pay is the best because what's really great about my company is that every single team member is incentivized to succeed and there's no cap on their earnings. They can make as much money as they want. They can infinitely grow with the company, which is fantastic. That's what you want. Because if they can't grow anymore and they feel stuck, they're going to leave for the next highest bidder. They're going to go to a different company. And that's why so many nurses and other people from other companies leave to join my company because We actually incentivize people right, and we treat them right. We treat them like family. We treat them with respect. A lot of people, they don't want to work for you because they need money. They want to work for you because they like where you're going. They like what you're doing. They feel like they're providing real value. They feel valued at the company. They feel like they're growing with you. They feel respected. They feel like someone actually cares about them. And that's how you build a really great team in your business. And when you take care of the team's going to take care of you and the business. And fortunately, we're in a spot now where once you've done all of this, now you can start looking at freedom. Now you can do the things and focus on the things that you want. Now you can focus on your relationships. You can focus on your health. And obviously, you should be doing all this in congruent, but you have so much more time now. Like, I'm in such a great, I'm so blessed to be able just to sit here in front of a camera and talk to you guys, because before it wasn't possible. But now I have the time to where I can sit here and share a lot of this wisdom with you to hopefully help you guys get yourself in a great situation as well. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying there won't be problems even here, but the problems will transform. You'll have better problems. Now it's not how do I get clients? Now it's how do I fulfill all these requests? How do I fulfill all these clients, right? It's different problems. But that's what you want. You want to build up the success. So to kind of leave you guys off with some final wisdom here, departing wisdom, what are the top 3 things I've learned along this journey from working in the ER at a regular W-2 job to being self-employed at my own business, and now just being a business owner, CEO of one of the leading mobile IV therapy companies in the world? The first lesson I've learned is patience. Everything will take longer and cost more than you think it will. And that's okay. Just go in knowing it's going to take longer than you think and it's going to cost way more than you think it is. But if you stick with it, if you stay consistent, please, if nothing else, stay consistent. It will work out. So stay consistent, guys. The second thing that I learned is humility. As you're growing, as you're doing better, keep it on the down low. People don't need to know how much money you're pulling in. People don't need to know how well off you are. People don't need to know that you're succeeding, right? Keep things simple. When they ask how business is, you say business is okay, right? Don't complain, but definitely don't overshare. And by doing so, you're going to protect yourself. Because if you start oversharing, if you start becoming arrogant, people are going to work to take you down. They're going to start launching investigations against you. They may raid you. They may try to kill you. They may try to rob you. They may just even pass on bad energy to you. They may even not even talk to you anymore. So stay humble throughout the process. It can be hard. You're going to be excited to tell everyone, oh, I'm doing so well. But don't do it. It's a costly mistake. They're going to pass on the evil eye to you, right? So just be careful and protect your energy. That's, seriously, protect your energy. The third thing is be generous. Be extremely generous with your clients, the people around you in your life, your family, your friends, and your team. You need to be generous to everyone around you. There's a really famous saying like, I once helped a man climb to the top of a mountain and realized that I too myself had reached the top. You've got to help people get to the top with you. And by doing so, you're going to get to the top. That's why I'm here sharing all of this with you. That's why I'm here trying to help and inspire you and share my knowledge to help you climb the mountain, because I've been there. I know it's a hard journey, but by doing so, not only am I helping you, but it's helping me too. So be generous with people. People like to be around generous people. If you're penny pinching everyone on everything, no one's going to like you. You're not going to have any real supporters or real friends. Every relationship you'll be in is going to be transactional. It's just not great. Like, be generous with people. Remember their names. Give them bonuses. Overpay them. It's okay. I promise you the money will come back to you, right? Keep the right people with you. If you have a really strong team member, make sure they don't have a reason to look anywhere else. Make sure that no other company can come to your team members and influence them to leave you. And you're going to do that by treating them with respect and by paying them what they deserve. Even more than they deserve. Like, pay these people, seriously. But, don't bankrupt yourself, right? I'm not saying give every dollar away that you have. What I'm saying is make sure they feel well rewarded. And honestly, some of the best business decisions that I've made have always been around incentivizing my team members to perform. If I saw they weren't doing something, it wasn't because they're lazy. It wasn't because they hate me. It wasn't because they didn't know how to do it. It was because they didn't feel incentivized to do it. So incentivize people to do the things you want and just watch how everything transforms. So be generous. There's also a lot of things on karma. Guys, I'm going to recommend you a book. It's called The Diamond Cutter by Geshe Michael Roach. Regardless of what you think or feel about him, it doesn't matter. Highly recommend that book. It's going to teach you everything you need to know about karma and how you can use it to be financially successful in business. It's not just a spiritual thing. You got to use energy and spirituality to help improve your life, right? Otherwise, it's meaningless. So believe it or not, you can use karma to better your business. And I've used a lot of different energetic influences and powers throughout my life to get me to where I am today and continue to propel me forward. So read some books. Readers are leaders. You always need to be reading because reading stimulates the imagination. Watching and listening to videos like this is great. One day I'll come out with a book and all of you can read it, but the problem with video and audio, it's totally a great platform, but it does all the imagination for you. You don't think. When you read a book, you actually have to imagine things and use the creativity in your brain. It's going to stimulate different nervous pathways and make you smarter. It's going to boost your IQ, and you're going to become a much more creative and intelligent person, and you'll be able to communicate better. So you have to be reading. All right, guys. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, but those were the 3 greatest lessons that I have learned along the way. And as I continue the way, I'll continue sharing my experiences with you. This is episode 1. We're going to stay consistent with these series. I'm going to chop it up to little short videos that you can watch if you don't have time for the long ones. But in the car, listen to these videos, heed these words, become wise, my friends, and I will see you all in the next episode. Peace.